All right, you ready to do another deep dive? This week, we're going to be tackling Week 16 in the NFL, and I got to say, these games, oh boy, they are looking wild. We've got playoff races really starting to heat up. We've got teams that are, maybe not in the running, but still playing for pride. And you just know with the NFL that we're bound to get some big surprises along the way.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So the source material that we're looking at today is a set of expert predictions, and this comes from one of the best sports websites out there. I'm not going to name them, but you know which one it is. So we're going to see if we can kind of pick out the gems from these predictions and maybe poke a few holes in the logic here and there. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. Should be interesting to see what the so-called experts are thinking and see if their picks, actually hold water.
Okay, let's jump right in. Before we get into these individual games, though,
Yeah.
are there any big trends or surprises that kind of jump out at you just from looking at this whole set of predictions?
There are a few things that caught my eye. First off, it looks like there are no unanimous picks this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every single game has at least one expert who's kind of going against the grain, which tells you right there this week could be really unpredictable.
Okay, so everybody buckle up. Sounds like we're in for a bumpy ride this week. Now, are there any teams that seem to be getting a lot of love from these experts? Like, is there anybody where all the experts are like, yeah, this team's going to win?
Well, it looks like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Lions, the Colts, the Rams, and the Eagles are all predicted to win by just about everybody. Maybe one or two outliers, but yeah, pretty much everybody's picking those teams.
Interesting. So no shocking upsets predicted outright?
Yeah.
But I bet there are some games where the experts are kind of divided, right? That's where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. And one that jumps out right away is the Texans versus the Chiefs. Only one expert is actually picking the Texans to win.
Oh, wow. All right, so who's the lone wolf going out on a limb there?
That would be Gennaro.
Gennaro, all right. Gennaro's making a bold prediction. What's the logic there?
Well, the Chiefs are dealing with some uncertainty around Patrick Mahomes. He's got that mild high ankle sprain, which, for quarterbacks, that's a pretty common injury.
Right, it can really limit their mobility.
Exactly. And the experts are kind of split on whether he'll even be able to play at his usual level or if he'll even play at all.
Okay, so Gennaro's probably banking on Mahomes either being limited or maybe not even playing. And then the Texans' defense, they've got to step up big time. I mean, they do have a pretty solid defense.
Yeah, they do, especially when it comes to, putting pressure on quarterbacks. Brooke specifically mentions this in her analysis. She was pointing out that the Texans have been really good at disrupting opposing offenses.
And, of course, we can't forget about C.J. Stroud. He's had some moments this season, shown some flashes of brilliance. Maybe Gennaro thinks that Stroud can actually, kind of outduel hobbled Mahomes.
It's possible. Stroud's had his ups and downs, like you said, but he can definitely put up points, especially if the Texans can, control the clock with their run game.
Okay, so Texans, Chiefs, that's definitely one to watch. Now, what other matchups are you kind of looking at here and thinking, this could be interesting?
Well, the Steelers and Ravens game always gets the blood pumping. It's a great rivalry. And this time I think it's got an extra layer of intrigue because the Steelers are really banged up right now.
Right.
They are riddled with injuries, especially on offense.
Oh, no.
George Pickens is out, and a whole bunch of other starters are questionable for this game.
Oof, that's rough. Sounds like a recipe for a Ravens blowout, right? I mean, come on.
You would think so, just looking at it on paper. And most of the experts are picking the Ravens, but Ali brings up a really interesting point. He points out that historically, the Ravens have actually struggled against the Steelers.
Interesting.
And Lamar Jackson, in particular, he has a losing record against them.
Really? Now, why do you think that is? Is it something about the Steelers' defensive scheme that just gives him trouble? Or is it something else?
That is a great question. And, Ali doesn't really get into the specifics,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something to consider. Maybe it's the Steelers' physicality. Maybe that just disrupts Jackson's rhythm, or maybe their defensive backs are just particularly good at, reading his eyes and anticipating his throws.
Yeah, those are really good points. So even though the Raisins are the favorites in this one, the Steelers might have a few tricks up their sleeve. Okay, let's move on to the Giants and the Falcons. What's the story there?
Well, this one seems like a pretty straightforward pick for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the experts are predicting a comfortable Falcons win.
Yeah, I could see why. I mean, the Giants are having a really tough season, and they're starting this new quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. That's a tough situation to walk into.
It is. Dan points out that the Giants haven't won a game since October. and their defense has been, well, it's been a sieve. They've been giving up an average of almost 30 points per game.
Yikes. That's not good. And what about the Falcons? Are they looking pretty good?
They're looking pretty solid, especially on offense. They're likely to rely on their strong run game to, control the clock and keep the pressure off their rookie quarterback. It'll be interesting to see if Penix can provide a spark for the Giants, but it seems like the experts are betting on the Falcons' experience, and their offensive firepower. They think that's going to be enough to carry the day.
So not a lot of hope for the Giants in this one.
Not according to the experts. It looks like they're expecting a pretty decisive Falcons victory, but hey, you never know in the NFL.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have the Cardinals and the Panthers. Now, both teams are still in the playoff hunt here, so this one should be a real nail-biter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of those games where the experts are pretty divided, and there are some good arguments on both sides.
Okay, I like it.
Ali is picking the Cardinals, and he highlights the Panthers' biggest weakness, which is their run defense. They are ranked dead last in the league in rushing yards allowed per game.
Ouch. That's not a good stat to have if you're the Panthers. So the Cardinals should be pretty excited about that. I mean, they've got James Conner, they've got Kyler Murray, they've got that Russian attack going.
Exactly. And if the Cardinals can establish the run early on, it'll open up those play-action opportunities for Murray. And when he's on, he can be a real game changer.
But the Panthers do have Bryce Young, and he's shown some real flashes of brilliance. Do you think he can pull off the upset here?
He could, but it's going to be tough. The Cardinals' defense is not bad at all, and they're especially good at creating turnovers. So Young's really going to have to be at his best, and he can't make any costly mistakes.
All right, let's shift gears here. Let's head up to the NFC North, and we got the Lions facing the Bears. And on paper, this looks like a mismatch. I mean, the Lions are on fire this year.
They have been a revelation this year. But Brooke actually thinks this one might be a little bit closer than people are expecting.
Okay.
She points out that the Lions have been, well, surprisingly shaky on defense lately. They've given up a ton of points in their last couple of games.
Wait, how many points are we talking here?
They've given up an average of 40 points per game over their last 2 games.
40 points per game. That's not the Lions defense we've all come to know and maybe even, love a little bit.
Right. And even though the Bears offense hasn't exactly been lighting it up this season, they just might be able to capitalize on the Lions' defensive woes.
So you're saying this could be a potential trap game for the Lions. They can't afford to overlook the Bears, even though they're not having a great season.
Exactly. And if the Bears can somehow find a way to slow down the Lions' offense, which is a tall order, they might just have a shot at pulling off the upset.
Okay, let's head down south for the Titans versus the Colts. Always a tough physical matchup between these two division rivals.
It is. The Colts are the favorites here. And Dan makes a good point about the Titans' quarterback situation.
Oh.
They're starting Mason Rudolph,
Okay.
who's a decent backup, but not exactly a game changer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a tough break for the Titans. They're going to need their defense to really play lights out if they want to keep this one close.
Absolutely. And Dan emphasizes that the Colts defense is coming off a really dominant performance last week.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they allowed a measly 3.2 yards per play.
Wow.
Which is just stifling.
All right, so the Titans offense is going to have their work cut out for them. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. Let's take a look at these remaining games after we come back.
Okay, so let's jump back into these predictions here. We've got kind of a clash of styles brewing in the Big Apple. We got the Rams taking on the Jets.
Oh, that one's got my attention for sure. The Rams are looking like contenders again.
Yeah.
They had a little bit of a rough patch there, but and then the Jets, well, they're the Jets. Always good for some, drama.
Exactly. Gennaro's highlighting the Rams' recent surge here. They're sitting atop the NFC West right now. They've really found their groove.
Yeah, they have. On both sides of the ball. It's impressive.
Yeah, offense and defense. And the Jets, well, it seems like they're still trying to, figure things out. They're coming off their first win in weeks, but, they've been up and down all season.
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Gennaro thinks that the Rams' defense should be able to really, feast on the Jets' offensive line.
Yeah, that offensive line has been a problem for the Jets, that's for sure.
Big time. And that could be a big problem for Zach Wilson,
Oh, yeah, if he doesn't have time to throw.
Exactly. So, is Gennaro predicting a Rams blowout here? I don't know if I'd go that far, but he definitely sees the Rams coming out on top. He's thinking that Stafford and that high-powered Rams offense is just going to put up too many points for the Jets to keep up.
Okay, so maybe not a blowout, but a comfortable Rams victory.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap things up with a game that could have huge implications for the NFC East. The Eagles are flying high, but they've got a tough test on the road against the Commanders.
Ooh, this one is interesting. This is a real head-scratcher here. I mean, the Eagles, they're riding a 10-game winning streak.
10 games, that's incredible.
It is. It's amazing. But the Commanders have been a tough team to beat at home this year.
They really have. They've exceeded a lot of people's expectations this season.
For sure. They're definitely not the pushover that everybody thought they were going to be.
Not at all.
Tom, he's acknowledging the Eagles' incredible run, but he's also bringing up a really crucial point. They're dealing with some key injuries on offense right now. A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley are both banged up, which could really limit their explosiveness.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if they're not at 100%, that could be a problem for the Eagles.
Yeah.
So is Tom thinking upset alert here?
He's still picking the Eagles to win, but he's expecting a much closer game than the point spread might suggest. He thinks that the Eagles' depth and their overall talent, it'll be enough to overcome the injuries and that hostile road environment, but it's not going to be easy.
All right, so a potential nail-biter in Washington to close out the week. We've covered all the games, but before we sign off, let's just kind of take a step back and look at the big picture here. What are your key takeaways from all these expert predictions, and what are you kind of most curious about as we head into Week 16?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the NFL is unpredictable, you know? I mean, we can look at all these stats, we can study the matchups, we can listen to all these expert opinions, but at the end of the day, anything can happen on Sunday.
Oh, I love that about the NFL. The unexpected is always right around the corner,
Sure.
ready to just, completely throw our predictions out the window.
Exactly. And that's what makes this week so exciting. I mean, we've got potential upsets, we've got classic rivalries, playoff races are heating up. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah, it really is. Like those moments where you think, okay, I've got this game figured out. I know what's going to happen. And then, bam, fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Or a last-second field goal. Just
Yeah.
flips the script entirely.
Yeah, totally. That's why we love this game. And speaking of flipping the script, I'm really curious to see which of these expert predictions just gets completely blown out of the water this week.
Oh, me too. So put you on the spot here. Which game are you most excited to see play out? And which prediction do you think is most likely to be wrong?
Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So many good games this week. But if I had to choose, I'd say that Texans versus Chiefs game has the highest potential for a shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if Mahomes is really limited by that ankle, the Texans just might have enough to pull off the upset.
I'm with you there. I would love to see the Texans, shake things up a little bit. And you know me, always rooting for the underdog. But in all seriousness, every game has something special to offer this week. I mean, we've got playoff implications. We've got heated divisional rivalries, young stars looking to make a name for themselves. It's going to be good.
Couldn't agree more. It's the perfect blend of, high-stakes competition and that unpredictable drama. And as we head into this final stretch of the regular season here, the intensity is just going to keep going up and up.
Absolutely. So to everybody listening, get ready for another wild weekend of NFL action. Dive into the matchups, analyze the predictions, maybe make some bold predictions of your own, and most importantly, enjoy the games. We'll be back next week to break it all down and see who came out on top.